let's play with some liquid and powder. And let's start with a couple tips for basic, and then move into a few tips for when you're working with extreme. And some manufacturers, this is their technique, so if your product says to use the tapping quickly method, please don't change that. That is specific to their product. Most products, if you tap it a lot, you're gonna work air bubbles into it, which is gonna make it more likely that you have nails that crack, especially those of you that have cold climates. It's going to be like connect the dots when they walk outside in the winter, and the nails will crack within the first 24 to 48 hours. So we set it down. If we're going tap, 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 we're working super fast. Tap, 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 tap. Right? And then we can just come back in and smooth it down. And we feel like, whew, I am so fast. Right? Because your hand was moving fast, so surely that means you're doing fast nails. Yeah? The trick to that is you're not really doing anything efficient. You can be fast while you're being efficient. So slow your brush down a little. Grab your bead. And of course I've got some stuck in there from doing that tapping thing. When you place it, set it down and then press and guide. So press and move the brush, press and move the brush, so that you're taking it where you want it to go quickly, but it feels like it's slow because you're just setting the brush down and moving it.
I'm gonna lower your hand a little bit.
Yeah, better? Yeah, thank you. And see how it's really just kind of listening and going over where I want it to because I'm slowing down. And then when you smooth out, you can also kind of slow that down a little bit and you get that more smooth. If you struggle with smile lines, the first thing I want you to worry about is brush angle. So practice picking up a bead, setting it on the nail, and don't even turn the tip towards you. Strictly work with the tip to the side so that you can physically look at the angle of the brush. With the brush at that angle, what's happening to the bead? It's parallel to the finished shape. So see how it's starting to already taper down to the end and work its way up towards the arch.
Lower it a little bit.
Thank you. Just keep working at that until you get used to the feel of the brush and you see how that brush angle is. Maybe you need to do it on 3 tips, maybe you need to do it on 5. Whatever you need to just get used to that angle. Once you get a feel for looking at it sideways so that you truly know what the angle is, come in and hold your hand normal. So you've got the angle down, and practice holding your brush at that angle, looking at it straight on like you normally would. And I don't care about the smile line. I don't care if you got enough product to cover the nail. I just want you to get comfortable with the brush at the right angle. Because if you're coming in working with the brush at a different angle, let's say we just come in and work with it straight. What happens?
Sorry, I'm not sure what you said.
See? That was perfect. It's kind of like the Minion. Okay? If you come in with the brush straight, notice how I've now smashed what I would normally butt the pink up against. And that's going to give me that little gray area between my pink and my white. If I have the brush at an upward angle, now what's happening? You're thickening out the end just a little bit and you're further smushing where your pink and your white come together, so it's going to be even more likely that you have that gray area. You don't have that distinct pink and white. The first thing you want to do is the corners, because that tends to be the hardest. So just get the hard stuff out of the way right out of the gate. Set it down, keep your brush angled, and go straight for a corner. Come back, head towards the other corner. Come back, head towards this corner. And if you've got a good mix ratio, you can go easily back and forth between the two really quickly before it hardens. So get that smile in there first. Practice working those corners right up. Do that on several tips until you've gotten comfortable working with the brush at the correct angle plus taking it up into the corners initially. Once you're comfortable with both of those, start working with your brush. The very tip of your brush is called the flags. You want the very tip of your flags to come to the very edge of the smile line. So I don't want to go past the edge of that smile line. I want to come right up to it when I'm working with it, with my brush angled back and going up into those corners. If I take my flags over the edge of the brush, or over the edge of the smile, sorry. Even with it at the correct angle, can you see how it's smashing the smile a little bit? Or if I'm not taking it far enough and I'm coming just right behind the smile line, see that awesome little trench I'm making? Did anybody just go, oh, right? So you want to make sure you're taking the flags of your brush right up, but not beyond that smile line. Keep your brush at that angle and head for the corners first. Pick up our bead, set it down, and go straight for the corners, taking my flags up to the edge of the smile without going beyond. And just gently pressing it and guiding it into place, making sure that I work back and forth so it doesn't dry out on me. And once I have the corners in place for the smile, I can come back in and fill in the corners at the edge of the nail. And this is super fun to do from the side, just so you know. Clean out your brush really, really well and come in and tuck your smile. Tucking it will help keep you from doing this. Has anybody done that? Right? So if you will tuck it in little motions, that helps keep you from swiping off that one corner. And there is a video on that you can watch one section, practice that one thing, watch the next piece, practice that one thing, and just work with it if you really struggle with smile lines. So there's just kind of some tips to make your life a little easier. And something that can make this a little easier if you don't have the little metal backing pieces for forms is take and cut the sides off of one form and put it on the back of another so that you still have the sticky edges to close the form, but you can make it a little more solid in the center to keep the shape that you're trying to create with the dowels. Does anybody have a nail that's either naked or just has clear on it so that I can kind of... You've had a bad morning, Maria. You come up and do it for me. With Extreme, your best success is going to be if you get rid of any excess length. If you try to leave the length that you have, you're going to make your life more complicated for no reason. So let's not make life more complicated. Let's make it simple. And get that extreme shape in there, because we want to create new sidewalls to get a really nice C-curve without pinching. I want to be able to actually put that C-curve in there with the dowels. Then you want to find the fit. And what you're looking at, this will be perfect. If I take this ruler, I want the side of the dowel to match her sidewall. And it's difficult to visualize because the dowel is round. So you really want to kind of train your eye to see the sidewall extending out visually, even though it doesn't, because that's the size you want to start off with your dowel. Then you're going to just line your dowels up side by side in order of size. So you can see I have these lined up in size order. And I'm going to find the one that's 2 sizes over from what I have. So this one would go here. 2 sizes over would be here, so I'm going to take that one. I'm going to set that one off to the side. The one that fits her finger, I'm going to wrap around the dowel, touch it underneath, and remember I stuck that other piece of form under there so that my dowel wouldn't stick. It also is going to make the form a little more solid to play with. I'm going to pull that out and snug my form in. Now, usually when you've shaped it and removed all of the excess free edge, you're going to need to come in and trim your form just a smidge in that center piece. So I'm just going to come in and cut a slight rounded triangle out of that to allow for her hyponychium. And the more you do it, the easier it gets, so that you don't have to start back over 100 times. My thing popped open, so I'm going to stick it back around the dowel. Stick it to the dowel. Yay. I love looking stupid, it's my favorite. Alright, I didn't cut the underneath piece of the form far enough out, so it's stuck. So now once you have that little triangle notched out, you can bring this in, tighten it, then take your 2 size down dowel, tuck it into the finger, and come around and tighten the form to that dowel. What that's going to do is just barely pinch in this C-curve up against the nail, so that when you come in and sculpt in these sides, your sidewalls automatically taper down into that more extreme C-curve. Then to apply your product, you're actually going to apply in zone 2 and 3 first to create that longer nail bed illusion. Do you notice on a stiletto it doesn't have that partially bitten off chiclet on the end of a sausage look? There's not 3/4 of white. They actually always have elongated nail beds. What does that do for the nail? It slims it down. What's the point of putting on a long skinny stiletto that does for their hands what stilettos do for their legs if we're gonna make the white all thick and chunky? It defeats the whole purpose. Set it down and press it, leaving it thicker towards the end. And once you have that in place, you can actually take your brush just like you would with the smile line and create the smile line out of the pink, so that when you come in and do your white, you're butting it right up against that pink and making the smile. And that's a much more efficient way of building out that nail bed when you're doing an extreme nail. You can also, when you're doing the extreme nail, if you needed to, because this pink comes out over the form, Once you've gone through and done the pink on all the nails, you can come back through, take the forms off and perfect the shape of the pink, then put the forms back on and go in and do your whites. And that kind of is helpful if you're not good at it yet. Once you get really good at it, you can clean up that edge well enough that you can go right in and do the white just like you normally would do the pink right after the white. So when you have that, you can just come in, place your white, and then all you have to do is go up and tuck that white against the pink. And it's ideal to do this in a couple layers so that you're stacking it up like a pancake, because you want to be able to really get in super thin up this side to make that really skinny, crisp smile line on the sides. And if you've come in with a lot of product, it's difficult to do that. And just kind of go ahead and build the entire nail out with that really thin layer, and then come back in and put a second layer to thicken it up and get the rest of your sculpt. And then it's a lot easier to lay that product because you already basically have a template with that first layer. And then of course you can come in and clean that up. I'm smearing it all over the place for fun. And then just clean your brush off really well and come back and again just kind of tuck the smile line, don't swipe it. And you can even add a little bit of a curve to your tuck if you feel the need to swipe. It just kind of keeps you from taking off too much at once and getting too aggressive and losing a corner. Does that help?